Hello and welcome to this week's Rocksmith Developer Stream. I'm your host and the community developer for Rocksmith, Doug Lilly. I'm really excited about today's show. We have our community guest is returning. That is GryffindorChick. That is Steph, friend of the brand, friend of Rocksmith. Very glad to have you back. We'll see some from her soon. We've got an interesting integrated lesson from Greg Studley coming up. But right now, let's go ahead and get into it. We've got some cool guests today. If we want to introduce Brian Shu, I think most of you know Brian. Welcome to the show. Brian is one of our musical content developers here at Rocksmith. And if you were here right before we started, you might have noticed our intro music was a little bit different today. That's because that was taken from Brian's new single, Ain't Nothing New. And along with Brian, we have two of the MCs who appear on that track. That's Bennett Roth and Mons. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us on.
I think you might be muted. There you go. There we go. So yeah, we just played a little bit of the instrumental version of the track, but on the full version, which we'll have linked in the chat, you two both appear as MCs. Bennett is a pianist, MC, songwriter, and music educator, and Mons, aka Christian Manzana, is a professional musician, producer, music educator, and MC. Welcome all of you here to today's Rocksmith stream. Brian, let's talk to you. Let's get you first. So you just released a track. Tell us about the track.
So Ain't Nothing New is it's kind of interesting because this is the first release I've ever put out on something like Spotify or anything like that under my own pseudonym, Brain Shoes, right here. It's just a brain with my glasses on top of these shoes and a beanie. Anyways, I had merch made just for myself, but basically, you know, it's interesting because it's a hip hop track, but it's also very much so jazz influenced and influenced by, you know, just everything that I'm into. And it's interesting because I really wanted my first releases to be some sort of, you know, more live musician, maybe some jazz fusion or, you know, something like that. But the current circumstances of social distancing required us to make music and collaborate in new ways. So just one day I was maybe about 2 months ago, I was getting really inspired by this series that I was watching on YouTube called Against the Clock, which is this cool series on YouTube that has famous producers all over the world. And the challenge is they have to create a beat within 10 minutes. And then, you know, it didn't matter what DAW they were using. You know, the whole thing was just to make music for the sake of making music. And that really got me inspired to like, yeah, I should just learn to make a cool beat. And what happened was I made the initial beat by putting some samples together. I played bass and keyboard and guitar on it. And then I sent it to one of my friends, Lionel Briones, who isn't here. And I was like, hey, check this out. You might dig this, because he's super into this kind of music. And he's like, oh man, dude, I just got an interface. I want to record some sax on it. And like about an hour later, he sends me back all these sax parts and a synth lead part. And I'm like, wow, this is sounding really cool. So I just kind of put it all together. And then I sent it to Christian. And yeah, within like a week, the whole song was like basically finished, like 2 weeks. And this was like almost 2 months ago. It was like a month and a half ago or something like that, which was really cool.
Good turnaround.
Yeah, it was really quick how everything kind of came together. What kind of held it back from coming out in a more timely manner was just me figuring out like, how do I release this thing? Like, and the song has some lyrics and a message that's related to a lot of current events. And what was really trippy for us to be working on this was we were working on it and we completed it before the George Floyd incident. So we felt like it was really important and to put out as soon as possible. And I'm just happy it's like out there in the world, and I hope people really enjoy it. And I'm really thankful for Bennett and Mons to be, putting their voices and their messages on this track of mine. It feels very like makes it that much more important to me. So
Well, congratulations, Brian.
yeah.
The track sounds good. And let's hear Mons. Tell us something about yourself. I think you might be muted. We'll get it. We'll get it taken care of. We'll get Mons. Yeah, there you
I'm
go.
here. Yeah. Well, I've known Brian for I'd say about almost like 8 years, close to 10 now. Kind of crazy to think about. But I'm a music educator, MC, producer, as mentioned before. Um, Definitely married the sound of jazz and hip hop into like what I do. Just being a band kid, like growing up doing marching band, wind ensembles, and all that. It's funny because in marching band we had a group of people that were emceeing and beatboxing during these marching band trips, and I remember just like stepping up to them and just like listening, and then thinking like, hey, I really want to join that. So I would start writing these little raps here and there, and then I would just hop in and then spit something, and then like gradually get better, and then eventually pick up a DAW and just make some beats, and then make my own stuff.
And you were low brass, right?
Yeah, I play trombone.
Trombone.
That's my main instrument. Yep.
Cool. And Bennett, tell us something about yourself.
Well, just like Mons was mentioning, I got a long history and friendship with Brian, with Christian, with Lionel, who Brian was mentioning. All of us have been playing music in lots of different ensembles and settings for, man, it's got to be going on about 8 years, if not more. And Christian and Brian, along with myself and several others, were in another group, a group that kind of is um, similar to what Brian had been cooking up and has been now like really uh, a force in, which is this jazz and hip hop, R&B, soul collaborative sound. We had this group called the Bad Ones that put together an album that featured both myself and Mons on different tracks, spitting rhymes on, along with our instrumental contributions to the work. So all of us, I would say, are really familiar now with each other in the sense of putting music together, composing, producing, playing live, no doubt. So this is just kind of this is almost like the inevitable, definitely coming together. Um, I do a lot of my own projects. I'm a composer of a lot of jazz music, hip hop, R&B, um, and I teach like Brian and like Christian do, both in the one-on-one uh, and group settings. So I mean, music is my life. That's what it is, sun up to sundown.
Well, it's great having you both here, and I want to let everybody in the chat know if you have any questions for any of us here, either at the Rocksmith team, Brian, Mons, or Bennett. Just hit up UB Jurassic in the chat. That's Brian Turner. He is our community manager over in North Carolina. He'll be taking those questions. He'll also be handling the raffles when we get to those. But right now, I want to ask a little bit more about the sort of process of creating this single. When you created the beat, when you created the music and sort of put it together, Brian, and you sent it to Mons and Bennett for lyrics. Was there any discussion about what the song would be, or was everything handled independently? Or Mons and Bennett, did the two of you work?
So in a track like
How was
this,
that process?
when in a track like this, I had initially just sent it to Mons to just be like, hey man, like you can spit on this and just whatever comes to mind, just write and lay something down for me. I'm sure I'll like it. And what he came back with really surprised me. And it was, well, not you know, it surprised me in a really good way. Like I was like, wow, there's a message here, and I think this is really important. And at the time, I think I already sent it to Bennett to do something on, and then I realized I was like, oh wait, but now I should send the verse with Mons on it, because if the second half of the verse is just something completely random, then it just won't make any sense. So I just sent it to Bennett, and I don't know if he had to rewrite stuff, but I feel bad if you had to. Yeah, but that's just how it went. And then Bennett wrote his part of the verse kind of off of what Mons did, and got it back to me. And so you know, in a process like this, we're working on like a couple other tracks for fun, and I'm trying to spread the love around. So the next thing I did, which isn't out yet, hopefully will be out sometime in the next year. I sent to Bennett first, so I let him lay down the framework of the lyrics and kind of what he wanted to do first. I imagine that's different. I don't know if that's kind of similar to how you two work. But yeah, if you guys want to.
Yeah, yeah, we'd like to talk about collaboration a bit, and how, especially, how collaborating with other artists in the area is different right now than it would be under normal circumstances, where you might be able to go to a studio, go to somebody's house. Like, how has the process changed for you? How are you adapting, and how has it maybe given you new opportunities that you haven't had?
I think for all of us, we tend to throw each other work because we've, like everybody said, we've known each other for so long. We know what everybody's capable of. Like, so for you know, I played in the band with the Bad Ones with Bennett and Mons, which is linked in my social stuff. And then also I've been playing with Mons and Super Soul Bros for like years, and so I just kind of know them, and just kind of, I think that the work, I can throw them stuff and believe in the stuff that they'll give me. Like I don't have to second guess the
Sure.
ideas that they're going to throw down ever, even if I don't even have an idea of what I want them to do. Like I know they'll do something good.
Well, then let me ask them, Bennett and Mons, how do you approach being a good collaborator? Like, how do you know that you can roll up in any particular genre, any particular type of music, and be able to produce something quality? Like, what's the mindset you have to have? Are there specific skills that you don't have to accumulate if you're part of a band that doesn't work much with people outside of that?
I mean, I guess I always default to um, do less, or less is more, and kind of listening. I mean, coming from the jazz background, where the listening element is key, and basically trying to like keep the process all very collective and democratic. I think that's kind of what fuels my mindset. Uh, especially if it's coming from a source where, like what this song did, where Brian is the first source of artistry, and then it got sent over to our homie Lionel, and then going to Chris, and then going to me. Like, there's been all these different contributions and ideas that have been stirred up to create where the music has gotten to this point. So for me, I'm just trying to really listen. I'm trying to dig in, and so by the time like the work got to me, Mons has laid down this really poignant lyrical verse, and the cadence is really has this like really varied rhyme scheme to it, and I'm like I'm listening to the tones that he's putting in. I'm listening to what Brian's production and sort of like slumpy tempo is brought about. So now when it comes to the feeling of collaborating, it definitely plays on what Brian has said about us already having this very established live feeling, and definitely you could say like in the time of being socially distanced, I think we're calling upon the memories and the familiarity we have of making music with each other live so much that it's like we're just trying to channel that feeling again, but not having to get in the same room. But we've been in the same room and in the same venue so much, over the years, that it doesn't take a whole lot to try to muster it up. It's already
Like,
kind of
put
in the
yourself back
DNA.
in that. Cool, cool.
Yep,
Mons?
yes, indeed.
Yeah, definitely. It helps that we've been playing together for years, so we know like how each other works, um, and like how to react in a live situation. But for collaboration, for me personally, I think it's about being humble and definitely putting the music first. So Brian sent out that beat. Originally, it was titled "Quarantine Bop." So for all you trivia fans, maybe it's gonna be a trivia question somewhere. But yeah, I kind of riffed off of that, like what's going on with my life right now and what's going on with the world. So I just kind of tied that in, and I think just being in a collaborative setting, you just have to be open to whatever. So I was definitely, if this wasn't the tone that Brian was going for and I sent him the verse, I would have totally been down to change it. And like this whole style of working through the internet, through a bunch of different platforms for live chat, I, I I feel like I've been doing it for like 10 years now in the span of like 4 months. So I found a rhythm, and I just kind of stuck with it for the most part. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Right now, we are going to do our first raffle. So I want to say we'll be back with Brian, Christian, and Bennett very soon. Sorry, Mons and Bennett very soon. But right now, if you are in the chat and you want a chance to win our first Ernie Ball prize pack of the day, please listen to instructions from UB Jurassic in the chat. He will let you know how you can win everything that you see on your screen now. You're going to get 2 sets of strings from Ernie Ball. That's a six string set, a 4-string set. You're going to get 12 picks from Ernie Ball, along with 3 picks from us here at Rocksmith, and a black Ernie Ball guitar strap, peg winder, and a package of water wipes. Once again, we are still not in the office. We will be shipping these out once we get into the office, so we appreciate the patience for anyone who wins and enters. And if you win, you're going to get a whisper from UB Jurassic to get your name, your shipping address, and your telephone number. Once more, we do need all that information in order to get your prize to you. So I want to say good luck, and we'll be doing that real soon. And right now, it is time to introduce our player for the day. This is GryffindorChick. Steph, she is back, and today she is going to play a couple songs for us right now. Stone Sour with Absolute Zero. Here is GryffindorChick.
Hi there, guys. It's GryffindorChick. If you don't know me, I am a variety streamer and a Rocksmith bass streamer. I do want to thank Rocksmith for this opportunity to be on their stream again. It's been a blast and a half. I love doing it. The songs that I picked this time, I just wanted to pick because I'm selfish. I don't have any follow-ups to them this time. I just wanted to play them for you guys, and just an ending note, be excellent to each other, okay? Cool. First up is Absolute Zero by Stone Sour.
I can show you the truth. Hey everybody, Greg Studley here from Rocksmith. I wanted to let you know today a little bit about how modes relate to songs. A lot of times we refer to songs as being in a particular key, and every key relates to a scale. So you could say, hey, this song is in the key of C major, which means pretty much the entire song is going to be using the notes of the C major scale. Now you could also, at the same time, call the C major scale a mode, and it would be referred to as the Ionian mode. Same notes, just a different name for it. Now, there's lots of different modes that you can play in, and what the modes do is they shift the notes of the scale a little bit. So, that's the difference between how you can have like a major scale and a minor scale. They're two different modes. Now, in the same song, you can also switch modes, even based off the same note. So a great example is how you could be in the key of E and have one part of the song in one E mode and another part of the song in another E mode. And when you do that, it actually creates a pretty cool sound where there's a lot of similarity between the sections of the song, but they're not exactly using the same notes. So a great example is by Stone Sour, right? Absolute Zero. You could take the first idea that they play, which is in their case C sharp minor. I'm going to be referring to it as E minor because I'm in standard tuning here. But they have it in E minor, and they're using the note F a good amount in that. Like they're really kind of making that a strong note. And that actually puts it into a particular mode known as the Phrygian mode. And the Phrygian mode kind of sounds like this. Has a very particular sound to it. Now later in the song, instead of playing an F, they play an F sharp, and this is particularly in the chorus. And by changing just that F to that F sharp, they're now playing in a different mode. This is known as the Aeolian mode. The Aeolian mode, by the way, is also commonly just referred to as the minor scale, so that one might sound a little familiar to you. So just by switching this one note, they actually create this nice sonic difference between the chorus and the rest of the song, where the chorus is in E Aeolian and the rest of the song is actually in E Phrygian. And it kind of makes the chorus pop out a bit because it's got this extra little tone in there that you're not getting in the rest of the song. And it does actually add a lot to the tune, even just by changing a single note like that. So if we look at the two different bass riffs, you can actually see how this note kind of shifts from one spot to another. So the main note you want to look for is the note F, which in the intro is going to be this F here. So if you play the intro riff that they're doing, now if you notice, right in the beginning, they sit on that F, and they make it a pretty strong note right after the E, in fact. And so that F really gets pointed out as like, hey, this note's in here. Now, when you get into the chorus of the song, they actually start showing off this F sharp. It's an octave higher, but still it's the F sharp there. So right there, when they do that little fill at the end, it actually brings out that F sharp there. Now, you might be saying, well, it doesn't really matter. Like, couldn't they have just played an F there? Well, listen to what it sounds like. It actually doesn't sound nearly as good. See, it doesn't really sound like the chorus. That single note can actually really help to define what's going on. So one thing to consider when you're playing, when you're writing, is you might have a song that's in E minor, but does it have to stay in the same mode of E minor the whole time? Maybe part of it, it's in E minor Phrygian. Maybe part of it, it's in E minor Aeolian. Studying your modes will actually help you see these things when you're playing in songs, and it'll start to pop out. You'll be like, hey, you know, they played the F earlier, and now they're playing the F sharp, and it'll click in your head, hey, something's going on here with the modes. They're changing them around even within the same song. So my advice on this front, study the modes a little bit. Start to learn how you can play them on your instrument, And when you see this kind of thing in songs, maybe jot it down and be like, hey, it looks like in this song, this is what's going on. Talk to some of your other musician friends. See if they come to the same conclusion. Because understanding music gives you a much better chance of playing it with true accuracy, because you really know what it is you are playing rather than just a jumble of frets. You know actually where these notes are coming from. So keep studying the modes. Enjoy yourselves. Be safe, everybody.
And welcome back to the live portion of today's Rocksmith developer stream. I am still Doug Lilly, your host and community developer on Rocksmith. Thank you very much to Greg Sudley for talking about modes a little bit, something we don't talk about probably often enough here on the Rocksmith stream, but maybe we can work on that. Let us know if you want to hear more about modes in the chat, and then I'll ask Brian Turner later. Right now, I want to have our song pack giveaway of the day. Last week we did a variety pack. This week I say, why not stick with variety packs? This week we're going to do variety pack 19. So if you're interested in winning a copy of variety pack 19 on Steam, we are giving away 5 of those right now. So listen to UV Jurassic for your instructions on how to win. In variety pack 19, we have we have In a Big Country by Big Country, Stir It Up by Bob Marley and the Wailers, Sissy Strut by The Meters, and More Human Than Human by White Zombie. So good luck if you want to enter in that. And right now we're going to visit with GryffindorChick one more time for a second song from her. And after that, we will be back with Brian Shu, Mons, and Bennett to talk more about jazz, hip hop, and music in general in the Bay Area. And thank you. We'll be right back.
All right, guys. Next up is Limelight by Rush. So I hope you enjoy.
Living on a lighted stage, approaching
All right. And again, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you again to Rocksmith for everything that they do. And I do want to let you all know that I stream Monday through Friday, starting at 3:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Monday through Wednesday is just variety stuff, and Thursdays and Fridays are Rocksmith days. So if you like what you saw here, please come and check me out and enjoy the rest of the Rocksmith stream, guys.
And welcome back once more to the live portion of the Rocksmith developer stream. I am, for the third time, Doug Lilly, your host and community developer on Rocksmith. I want to say again, thank you very much to GryffindorChick. That is Steph. You can follow her on Twitch, GryffindorChick on Twitch. I think we're going to have her Twitter on the chat as well. If you want to give her a follow there. Thank you very much for being here again, and I'm sure we'll see you again very soon. Great playing. Right now, I want to reintroduce our chat guests for today. Brian Shu, Bennett, Mons, welcome back to the chat.
Hello.
Hello. feel that passion come up. So I had a question I wanted to talk to you about. You mentioned sort of like writing lyrics about the experience, and I wanted to talk about sort of capturing a moment in a song. I think a lot of this might, I don't know if this is more of a like poetic idea, but just focusing on a single moment. I'm sure it can be applied to lyrics. Let's talk about that. How do you capture a moment in the lyrics of a song?
I think Bennett and Mons might have more things to say because I don't really write too many lyrics.
Oh yeah. Bennett and Mons, how do you capture a moment in a song?
I think especially for this song that we just put out, it was just all this pent up energy of just like staying at home all day and then sort of watching like what was going on like in the world just through our phones pretty much, and using technology. So it was just, I just felt the need to let that energy out onto a song, onto paper or on my phone or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Digital paper, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah, I
Bennett.
mean,
Oh, sorry.
I don't know.
All right, Bennett.
Yeah. For me, I mean, I've had the ideas of, wanting to essentially sound off on what's been going on since we, got thrown into the shelter in place. And I actually released a single, basically just sounding off on that stuff, just this like minute and a half long song, called "The Accessory," back in early May. So, lyrically, I think I've been marinating on concepts that we did touch on in Ain't Nothing New, for a little while. But certainly, like the vibe that the music brought, that Brian produced, I think allowed me to sort of tap into something that made me want to get a little more either like aggressive or a little more direct, if you will.
Sure.
Maybe that's the way to describe it. A little more direct, and
Yeah.
really put forth the authentic feelings that I've been having, that I know many of my close friends and family have been sort of sharing. So it only seemed right to, and I think like that moment, I mean, for me, I think it's this hook that Maz does at different points of the song. It's kind of that pinnacle feeling. The whole "stay home, ain't nothing new." Like, it's got this chant like feeling, but it also has this sort of I think like poignant message and poignant delivery, where it's like, hey, here we are. We've kind of all been subjected to this thing.
It's like an anthem that you can shout from window to window.
Yeah,
across the street.
right. Like, so while it's also calling to the attention of what we're doing, it's sort of in a way unifying and kind of uniting, listeners, whoever getting it, right?
Right.
So like, even if everybody's separated, we're still going through this very much the same situation in a lot of ways. Now let's get a bit broader. Now, all three of you have worked in groups or on projects that are what I'll simplify incredibly by calling like hip hop jazz hybrid. And I want to make it known there's a lot more to it than that, but I think those are the two primary elements. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a like as a sort of hybrid genre. I know it's been around for a bit. How do you approach this particular hybrid of jazz and hip hop differently than you would either as an MC or as a instrumentalist? How do you sort of make space for those different ideas when you're constructing a song?
I think the idea of jazz is live instrumentation, and hip hop I think of beat. So it's fairly easy for me to like kind of put those two together, where a lot of hip hop is actually a lot of hip hop is samples. There are plenty of groups like Tribe Called Quest or The Roots that did completely live bands, and I've always been a big fan of groups like that. And me and Bennett and Mons play in a group like that in downtown San Jose. Like when COVID wasn't happening, we used to play every week, and that's basically what we did. So it was always just natural for us. Like and like in the bad ones, we would be playing a completely instrumental tune, and then maybe on a vamp, we would just have someone just flow on it.
Sure. So yeah, is improvisation as much of an element as it would be in a sort of more traditional jazz ensemble, or is it
not in this recording, but it's certainly like I think when we do it live, that's kind of where we're coming from. And yeah, I don't know if anybody else has anything to say.
Yeah, Bennett, Mons?
Yeah, I think in just relating that question to the song, I think the feeling of jazz being like, the emotional vehicle, because I think the way this song could come off, both from a production side, from a lyrical side, and all the forces combined, I think it can convey, the deep emotions, the feelings of, struggle or frustration or jubilation or, rallying cries. I think that cultural element of jazz certainly is pertinent to this tune, as with hip hop, where hip hop has always been kind of a genre of like empowerment and sort of taking back the power,
right?
Certainly in times when it first got some legs, and even to this day. So I think those sides where maybe they're not so much kind of like what Brian's talking on from like the live setting, the studio version of us playing this and us like performing this live would, I think, certainly diverge. But I think the cultural and mental aspect of it from those two styles is certainly on display here.
Hip hop and jazz has always also been linked together. Like so much of hip hop is sampling jazz guitar players or jazz piano players, or I mean, Ron Carter did a bunch of famous jazz bass player did a ton of hip hop recordings. So they've always been very similar in a lot of ways too, like kind of swung beats in the early days and stuff like that. So there's a lot musically that kind of glues them together as well.
So when you're writing lyrics, this is from Mons a minute. When you're writing lyrics to one of these sort of hybrid tunes, I imagine there's, by and large, you're going to have more changes than you would in a more traditional hip hop beat. Now that might be changing. I think we're seeing a change in the way a lot of hip hop is recorded, and we're seeing a lot more changes within a single song. but looking back where you would have a beat that more or less persisted through the entire song. What sort of challenges as a lyricist are you looking at with kind of confronting possibly more, I don't want to say dynamic, because again, that seems misinformed, something with a lot more rhythmic variation throughout instrumentally than you might have in a traditional hip hop song? Did that question actually come through? I'm not sure. Okay.
I'd say the challenge is to create something that's rhythmically interesting, or that's rhythmically contrasting to what the beat's doing. Because a lot of the times as MCs, we rap over things that are just looped, and then they'll throw in a different melodic fragment here and there. And I feel like it's up to us to bring out something else in the song, or a call to attention, that melodic fragment, or even like with the content of the lyrics. Like when I first heard this beat, it sounded really, really light and really lighthearted.
Right.
And some of the stuff that I was talking about, or actually a lot of the stuff I was talking about, is definitely on more of a serious note. And I just wanted to put those two things together, because I think Bennett mentioned in earlier, like the chorus, like I said, stay home, ain't nothing new, war going on outside of me and you. That's pretty much talking about war going on outside, like a lot of these demonstrations going on, war going on inside. There's like, we got this virus going on as well that can like enter you and like take you out. So it's just all this stuff that I just wanted to address pretty much. Yeah.
And Bennett?
Yeah. The I think the parts that start to I feel like convey sort of the jazz and hip hop fusion together is, I kind of equate like the emceeing portion over a beat like it's a
Yeah.
soloist behind a rhythm section. And I think just like sort of what Brian was referring to about the group that we play in, that is always tying in emceeing over live band. Uh, when we do this, it's kind of just another moment like a soloist would do. Like when Miles Davis steps up and takes the first solo of Freddie Freeloader, it's like that's the first spotlighting moment, or that's the first spotlighting moment for the next solo act, if you will, of the greater production. And so I feel like it's kind of that moment where us as lyricists, Maz and myself, are essentially taking a chorus over the groove. And what's so cool about it is, at least as and the way Brian is doing this, not only with this song, but I think with others that have already started to have progress and are in the works, is that there's enough action happening in the production and the instrumental accompaniment behind what we're doing lyrically, that it feels like it's got this more uh, more obvious jazz backbone, because the production's throwing in like kind of more drum fills, more uh, more like variations of like chord changes, or the bass line kind of deviates a little bit and then comes back to its steady
Yeah.
pattern. And that's kind of like, I think, where the jazz and the hip hop start to really feel like they're cross influencing each other, where you can
Just
have
mesh.
something that is the steadiness, but then there's also the quasi improvisational moments that feel like they
Right.
happen just momentarily.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much. And we've got some questions from the chat right now. Twin Wolf FFIO wants to know how, as lyricist, you get past writer's block. Probably a question you've been asked before, but we like these answers because I think this is a situation where having as many options as possible available to you is helpful. So how do you, when you're writing lyrics, get past writer's block?
For me personally, to get past writer's block, I just exit the room where I'm writing the song and just do something non-related. read a book, play some video games, obviously.
Yeah.
Go skate, go skate. Uh, just take my mind off whatever it is that I was writing, and this goes for like even creating any music, writing any music, because we get so like tunnel vision that we lose focus, and we feel like we're just repeating ourselves.
Bennett.
I look for inspiration from other music. Um, if I'm listening to something that I'm trying to write to, and I'm not getting any momentum, I'll shut that one off completely and go to something else that I already know kind of has an influence on me or is inspirational. And what else I'll do is I'll go to the piano. I think for me, I feel like changing from an aspect of writing, writing lyrics and coming up with phrases with language. I get I feel like I get a push when I actually just start kind of noodling instrumentally,
Okay.
because I also use this instrument as my voice. So
Right.
finding my voice through an instrument eventually helps lead me back to my verbal voice.
Okay. Cool. And another one. Have you ever written a song? This is from Melvin the Hugger. Have you ever written a song in an unusual way? Maybe something like gamified, or just if you've set up particular limitations or challenges for yourself when you've approached songwriting.
Yeah, actually, there was this one thing that there was a guy I knew at San Jose State who loved to do this, and basically, this is very like avant-garde free jazz, but
I'm into
basically
it.
he was really into the idea of melodic cells, which basically you would take just a single line, and then everybody would like a single written line of melody or maybe a chord progression, and then you'd kind of just collectively improvise around that one idea, and just like it was really weird but very freeing in a very different way that we don't usually that I don't usually write in.
Right.
But
Mons?
Definitely. Hmm. I've done things where I would try and copy what Jay-Z did on his like first album. Like he had a song called 22 Twos where he
Yeah.
would end every single phrase with a two at the end of it. So or like he'd say something like a ballerina tutu or something like that. Or it's just like putting these limitations.
Yeah.
Cause sometimes, or I remember just being in music school, like one of our theory teachers saying, um, limitation like breeds creativity. So just having like this strict skeleton or this strict thing that you have to follow, like you find all these different ways to work around it. So definitely just challenging myself writing a verse in that manner.
And Bennett?
Lyrically, I can think of a couple examples that um, sort of were off the beaten path. I remember a few years ago co-writing a song with another MC where one one artist would say a segment say a statement, and the other would answer with like the antithesis of it or the very opposite. Like I think like it was something like for example one of the lines was like quiet in a group, loud individually, and it was going off of
Right.
things like that. And then there's another time I remember I was penning a verse, and everything I wrote was a question. Everything I wrote was a different question. I think it was having to do with sort of like how a couple gets together or like dating. It was kind of like it was sounding off on like the dating world. And like every phrase that I wrote was just another question followed by another question, and there was only one answer, and it was the final phrase of the verse. So it was like a buildup of just different questions without any response to them. It's just a question followed by a question. So that's a couple times I can think where things got a little bit quirky lyric.
Right. Another question from Tone Wolf FFIO. I'm going to adjust it a little bit. With the quarantine going on, you have a lot of people who are potentially creating a lot more music right now. And what do you think about the possibility of, within the next few months, having just a huge influx of new kind of musical ideas possibly being distributed out everywhere? Like, is that hopeful for you? Is that scary? What is there?
Well, I guess I'll take that first. Sorry.
Okay, no worries.
Part of me feels like it's what we're in right now it's not a one-off. Like, this in some ways is sort of steering the music world, the music community, in a direction that I think, one, hopefully it gets us back to something we've been used to for tons of years. But I think it also comes with the addendum of, now that we've gotten 3 to 4 months worth of getting used to this and adapting to this, that maybe it just becomes part of our process here, part of the routine for
like we're going to take
get music out. Yeah, because
potentially for the rest of our lives.
It might be here to stay.
Mons, Brian,
Yeah, for
anything
sure.
you
I
want
mean, like, I remember before the year started, everybody was like, "Yeah, 2020 is gonna be my year. Like, 20 is like a great number," and like everybody was already going, or a lot of people I know was going into this like this mindset, like I'm gonna kill this year.
Right.
I guess the year is killing us. But,
Yeah, well,
but yeah, I mean, there's just so much stuff going on. Like, I know all my friends are creating, and I love it. But sometimes you just gotta take a break and just like sit back and just like reflect. But I'm really excited to see what's gonna, like, all the art, not even just music, just art
Yeah.
that's gonna pop off in the next, I don't know, 3 months, next year. It's gonna be
Let's hope so.
beautiful.
Let's hope so. And real quick, Mons and Bennett, are you okay going a few minutes over? Do you have an appointment at 4? You good? Mons, you good? Couple of minutes. One question. Zagado Z in our chat. Sorry, Lyle Wangsa has a regular question. Hypothetically, you are given a $500 gift card to the online music store of your choice. What is the first thing you buy? I don't have these gift cards. You're not getting a gift card from me. This is purely hypothetical. I think Brian Shoes already answered this one before. So let's hear from Mons. Have you answered? Go ahead, Brian. Go ahead, answer the question. Let's see what you're getting.
I have to think about it. I don't know.
You don't have time to think. The card expires in 60 seconds. You have to purchase it now. We'll come back to you. I think Mons might have something on his head. We'll come back to you, Brian.
Hello.
I am gonna pick up a copy of Spectronics Omnisphere. That I just want some more synths to my.
Okay. I don't know what that is. So is that so yeah, what is that for us non-synthy people?
Well,
It's like a bank.
I mean, like, another product I picked up is their keyboard like pack called Keyscape, and apparently it was like pretty much 10 years worth of sampling a bunch of vintage keyboards.
Oh wow!
So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Vintage Vibe. They do a lot of like Fender Rhodes restoration, like Wurlitzer restoration. So they spent like, I don't know, 10+ years just miking all these wacky keyboards.
That sounds like a fun job.
Now I have like 80 gigs of keyboards. Now I want like 80 gigs of synthesizers. So please.
That's what you want. Bennett. Yeah. You're getting hypothetical $500 gift card on a music store. What are you picking up?
I'm going to get the latest version of Pro Tools to install it on the computer that where I'm at right now is where I teach, and the studio computer that we got here. And Brian and Mons know this spot I'm in too. Mons has done some teaching here too. The studio computer is running on Pro Tools 8.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Now, the crazy thing is it's like it's running like a charm, but
Right.
I think for as long as it's been toiling in Pro Tools 8, I think it deserves some TLC here, some upgrade. So I think that's where I'd steer to.
It looks like Brian Shu's not buying anything because he has a dog. What are you picking up, Brian?
Say, right before you tossed it to Mons, I was like, maybe some new plugins or something, but probably a new MIDI keyboard and some Waves plugins. They make some great like EQs and compressors and stuff like that, and been trying to get much better at mixing and mastering. So would love to get some better plugins.
All right. Well, I think that's going to just about do us for today. We've still got one more raffle coming up. But before I say goodbye to Brian, Mons, and Bennett, I want to say, and Brian, I know you just released a single. Where can we find it?
Spotify under the artist name Brain Shoes.
Brain
Shoes.
Shoes.
I don't know if this is like backwards. It looks backwards on my screen. But yeah,
I think it's fine from my perspective.
Okay.
Brain Shoes.
Brain Shoes. And the song's called Ain't Nothing New. Also, I have a link tree that is being posted in the chat by a Moobot. And if you go there, you can actually follow that link to all of my socials, my YouTube page, my Instagram, all the Super Soul Bros recording, which is video game funk covers, the Bad Ones, which is the modern jazz group that I was in with Bennett and Mons, and then as well as some other things. So,
all right, Mons, what you got going?
Yeah, just like Brian, you can follow me on my link tree that's been in the chat. I got a new single called They Don't Know. It's a solo single featuring a friend of mine. That's on Spotify, so you can find me on Spotify at Mons, M-O-N-Z, capital M-O-N-Z.
All right. Thank you, Mons.
I also want to mention that Mons is linked in my song, but it actually, if you click on Mons there, it goes to a completely different artist right now. So if you want to check out more of Mons' stuff, please follow that link tree.
Okay, cool. And Bennett?
I put out an EP called Put It Out back in December.
Is this the I just dropped my single? My single is dropping. Is that? Are we in one of those situations?
Yeah.
Sorry. What's the name of the EP? What's the name of the EP again?
So the EP is called Put It Out.
Okay. All right.
And I dropped that back in December of 2019. So it's about six months, going on 7 months. Been out there. 4-track project that I released.
Nice.
And like I mentioned a little bit before, back in early May, put out a single called The Accessory. That you can find both of those things on all the different streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, you name it. And you can find that plus all other different projects that I've been a part of with Mons, with Brian, on my website, BennettRothNewell.com.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for being here, and hopefully we'll see you real soon. Thanks for sharing that music with us. And to everybody in the chat right now, we are now prepared to do our final giveaway of the stream. This is our second Ernie Ball prize pack. So if you're in the chat, please listen to UB Jurassic for your instructions on how you can win this Ernie Ball prize pack. Once again, includes 2 sets of strings, one for your 6-string guitar, one for your 4-string bass. It's going to have a peg winder for Ernie Ball, a black guitar strap from Ernie Ball, a set of Wonder Wipes, 12 picks from Ernie Ball, and 3 picks from us here at Rocksmith. We will be sending those out when we get back to the office, so we're just holding on to your information between now and then. If you win, Brian Turner, through the name UB Jurassic, we'll reach out to you to get your name, your shipping address, and your telephone number. We do ship internationally, but if you're not in the U.S., please break up your address line by line to make it that much easier for me to get your songs to you. Thanks again to our guests today, Brian Shu, Bennett Roth, and Mons. Also, thank you to Greg Studley for talking about modes and bass with us. And thank you very much to Steph, GryffindorChick. Give her a follow on Twitch here and hopefully we've got her Twitter handle as well, so you can give her a follow there. And thank you all for being here today. We will see you next week. Goodbye.